right. So one of the big things I want to be able to do is track, who's made it to which sessions and that kind of stuff. And in some cases, I don't even have full names for people. I have a couple of email addresses, and that's about it. So I do have a spreadsheet if somebody reminds me if I forget about it. Somewhere about 10 minutes in or so, I want to send that out. I want to get the larger group get here first. And, we're going to jump straight into stuff. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time as we do this. And let's see, you don't need to see my calendar anymore. So we're going to start. Oh, jeez. Knock my headphones off as I reach around. Yeah. We're going to start in the repo, get some of the configuration set up and some of that kind of stuff. I'm going to be adding on probably large groups of people into give them rights on the repository. Some of it's going to be based on need and that kind of stuff. But realistically, if we got somebody that's helping with graphics, if we've got somebody that's writing code, if we got somebody that's updating documentation, we're going to be all over the repository. Okay, so it kind of makes sense to just bulk add people in. I need to figure out what the best way to do that's going to be. I don't mind showing the configuration of this repository. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't think we're going to give away any big secrets. If you're nervous about your information getting out there, let me know. But the reality is, if you're looking for work, somebody's going to know what your GitHub repo account name is anyway. That would be the hope, right? I gotta turn my phone off because it's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to stare at that every time it flashes, so we're going to move that. Okay, I don't do that very often. So we'll jump into this. Let's start here in the general. We'll come back to the manage access. We have folks still coming in. I'm going to send up a spreadsheet a little bit to track who's here when, that kind of stuff, so I can keep an eye on who's jumping in. Okay, so in our repository, it's on GitHub, Bob Fornell, how to take a test. It's public. Okay, until you have access, which we're going to do here in a bit, you're going to be kind of limited what you can do in there. But if you guys are volunteering to do this, I'm giving full access. We're going to go full bore, 100 miles an hour, and see how it goes. Okay. Wikis is already on. The only people that can edit are collaborators, so we have to get you in to be able to work on that. We do have issues started up. I'm not going to worry about sponsorships. Discussions, I'm going to add that one in. I just realized that was there, and I didn't have anything on that one yet. Okay. Pull requests. Let's see. Allow, merge. Add all commits from the head branch. Oh, I'm not going to change any of that. Control how and when users are prompted to update their branches if there are new changes. And don't need to change that. Don't need to change that. Don't need to worry about that. Archives. Bushes. Limit how many branches and tags can you update a single bush. I'm not worried about that. Okay. And we're not worried about any of this. We're not touching danger zone. Good stuff there. All right. So that's the core of the general. Real quick, I want to protect the main branch. Okay. I'm notorious for pushing to the main branch. If you've ever looked at my notes on Twitter, all of that's pushed to main. Okay. We're going to follow good business practices here. So this is something I'm hoping you get out of this, is seeing how this works. Okay. So we're going to add a branch protection rule. We don't have a branch name pattern that we're going to follow quite yet. So we may update that later. Okay. We haven't even defined how our cards are going to look at this point. Okay. But we do want to require a pull request before merging. We want to require approvals of 2 people. Let's see, dismiss stale branches. Require review from code owners. Require approval, review in pull requests, including files with a designated code owner. I don't know who the designated code owner is. We'll figure that out. Recent reviewable push, require status checks. We are going to do status checks, but we don't have that in place yet. That's a fight. That's always a fun one. Conversations will be resolved before merging. Yes, we do want that. Okay. Okay. Let's talk pull requests. How many are just, you can stick up hands. How many here are familiar with pull requests? Okay. Everybody's got the camera on. Cool. Hands getting raised. Awesome. That's good. Okay. So, conversations on the pull request. There's two mentalities that I've seen, and I want to make sure we're on the right track with this group project here. When you're the one requesting people to review the code, normally you would not close out the conversations. Okay, so that conversation could go on and on and on, and when somebody's okay with the way you decided to go or whatever, let them close it out. Okay. So if you're the owner of that repository, it won't let you merge because you're the owner, right? You shouldn't close out those conversations. Now, if you posted a response, you figure it's acceptable, it goes 24 hours. At that point, I would feel comfortable closing it out. Okay. Let's see. Don't need sign commits. Don't need linear. Don't need to lock branches. Don't need a bypass. Okay. Push access. No. Okay. I'm not going to worry about that yet. I may adjust those if needed. Okay. So we got basic branch pattern protection in place. We need to start adding some collaborators in. And I'm thinking the easiest way here is if you can post in the chat your GitHub name or email that's assigned to your GitHub. Go over to manage access, and we're going to start adding people. So let me get the chat open. Chat, there we go, chat. Hey. Cindy, saw that one coming, didn't you? All right. So pending invite. So you should start getting emails related to this stuff once I get the names in. Okay, let's try that. Gooey mess. I like that. Probably need to add. There we go. Well, that's going to be fun. And is that first one? Okay, yep. Got it. Bouncing between things here. So Mohammed has a nice short one there. And if you want to wait on the access, that's fine too. Just let me know. Okay. So Jack. The weather nice and warm out there, Jack? All right, so we've got Caitlin in. Let's see. Okay, so move access. Okay. All right. So Jack says, okay, so we had to get Dylan in. All right. So we got a bunch of names up. Yeah. Boy, you guys are popping them in just as I get the last one finished. Good timing. All right. 6. All right. So we have collaborators. And let's see, I have not worked with discussions much. Discussions should go along the lines of, this is a place that we can have a text-based chat over some feature or something like that. The idea there is you open an issue, that's a card, that's work, okay? Something has to be done if it's an issue. If it's just a general discussion on the direction we should go or something like that, that's what that's for generally, okay? Cloud, good. So we've got that space. Oh, I just clicked. Did I get the right one? Yes. Moving a little too fast there. All right, so we have 7 people, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 7 on. Hey, that works out. Good numbers. Everybody, awesome. All right, so I've been debating. I have a Trello Scrum board that I could invite you all to. Then we'll get to do all this stuff over again. But Trello boards are actually pretty cool and easy to work with. If you haven't worked with Trello boards, it's similar to Jira. I did look into Jira. I'm not paying $80 a month or whatever it is. Okay, that's a lot of money. So Jira is a little out of my price range and will be for probably a long time. Okay, we can either do this or if you've watched my videos, you've seen me do the project board up on here on GitHub, and that puts it all in one place. I'm okay either way. So, okay, good. Reminder on the spreadsheet. Okay, so while we're doing that, let's do this. I have a link for. Don't want to do that there. I have a file over here that won't get pushed in, and it's got the links that I need. So the one thing I'm not going to show off is that file. So here's the link, and timing's good. We got one more coming in. So there's the link for attendance. Okay, bookmark it. I'll post it out each time. It's real simple. Name, email, date, time. Okay, nothing fancy. So each time you're in here, put that in. That gives me some tracking on who's here, when, and I keep some tracking on what folks are doing related to the repo and then the work that we've got going on. Okay. Link says I need permission access. Well, that makes sense. Sure, why not? All right, we're giving the link out to the world here. And if I move that, let's see. Oh, well, that's kind of edit the form. There we go. And settings. Okay. Where is the? Oh, I don't want to preview. I don't, as you can tell, I don't work with Google Forms very much. Okay. So we got a list of questions. Got responses. Email notification hold. Really don't want email notification except for responses. Settings. Make it a quiz. Responses. How to manage responses that are collected. Here we go. Here's where it is. Restrict. I don't want to restrict to leading edge. Don't want to limit to one response. And with that, try it now. There we go. Cool. All right. So, holy cow. So you guys were able to follow the link to the Scrum board and get in there? Or did you have to request access? The Trello board, sorry. I see people in there. So there's a Trello board for those that haven't found it yet. And maybe my 6 notifications are people asking for access, right? Laura, share. Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay. Antacid. Interesting name. Not sure who that is, but okay. We're going to let him in. Didn't I just do this with that one? Review pending requests. Oh, there we go. That's easier. Select all. Add all to the workspace. Much faster that way. All right. So we have a board. So I guess we're going to use the Scrum board on Trello. Okay. So we will make work cards and that kind of stuff. Okay. We did a couple of basic access things in the repository. If you still need to add the repository or just showed up, I know there were one or two that just showed up a little late. Give me your GitHub handle or the email tied to your GitHub account. Okay. One of the things I want to remember to do before we go too much further is I want to set up the wiki. And this is basic markdown, I would assume. So we're just going to create the first page. And I have not worked in here on linking pages together. So the link is just link test URL. Okay. Let's save the page. Okay, so we got a home page. It's this one. We can add a custom footer. Don't need that. So if we create a new page that we call documentation. Oh, notes. This is my original notes. We'll make sure this gets in here. We'll figure out how to make it all look nice and pretty later. And it's an image I want to attach. Oh, well, that's annoying. Hang on. It's in my downloads folder. Oh. Downloads. There you go. Not hiding it from you, just easier to drag with that off the screen. Save page. Fill out. Oh, title. Okay. Notes. There you go. That's that big ugly thing I showed you on the original presentation. These are just my handwritten notes. Okay. That should be in there. I have another one I'll plug in later. I've had an idea on kind of a logo-y thing. And notes is here. We have a home page. We have a notes page. So my thought is we probably can grab this and link, but we'll worry about that later. We're starting to get things set up. We don't need the project board. And we'll let, if we find an error, creating an issue is a route to go. But my thought would be if somebody uses this from the outside and finds an issue, they can push an issue through that way. Okay. If we're finding issues, we should be using that Scrum board. And let's see. View pending requests. Let's see if we got more. One. All right. 7 guests. Interesting. I didn't show you as, oh, I guess maybe you didn't request access. Okay, we're now all members, all 14. We don't even have any people on, do we? Okay. We're figuring it out as we go. All right. So we got a board, okay? And this is where we need to start building our cards, building our backlog, deciding what it is we need to do, okay? If I miss things, please step up, let me know, okay? So first thought in what we need to build is we need to protect our branch by getting unit tests run, but to be able to run unit tests, we have to have some code in place, right? So we need a base Angular. And I think the current TLS version is 15. Find out. First, there we go. And major release, minor release patch, don't care about that. Where's my release first? There we go. So we got 15, 16 LTS, long-term support is what we're looking for, okay? So LTS is 14. 15 is not in long-term support yet. But I'm okay with trying out 15, okay? I just started working with 15 like 2 days ago. It's really kind of cool. There's some neat stuff going on in there. So we're going to try that. So we're going to install Angular 15. With And I'll just put that in the comments. We'll just go in here, we'll get the card added. And come on. There we go. That's what I want. Edit. Open card. There we go. Change this a little bit since the last time I worked with it. So set up Angular. And we're going to make this a bulleted list because we've got a couple of things we need to do. And then along with setting up Angular, we're going to, set up unit tests. And there's one particular thing we need to do with setting up the unit tests, and that's that we need to set it up to run in Chrome headless. Okay. And we want that because we want our pipeline to be able to run those tests. It doesn't need to stand up a browser to do that. We need to set our watch, turn the watch off. Okay. This is basically, we want it to run one time. It's kind of annoying because you have to turn watch on for when you're writing code and you want it to test over and over and over again. Okay. We're not going to check for coverage levels. But my assumption would be that I want folks to be explicit about the unit tests that they write. Okay. So in my mind, if you're looking at your coverage and your coverage reads 100%, but you know in that component that you haven't covered some function, you haven't written a test for it, the coverage is incidental. That's not what we want. We want explicit. I want to have that test coverage in place. I've heard conversations in the past, I think I've talked about this before, where, do I really need coverage of every function? Do I really need component level coverage? Why can't I just cover the important things and not worry about the other pieces? That's when I see problems crop up. Okay, I've been doing this a long time. I've seen unit tests save a project. I mean, just radically save a project. Okay, so we're going to write explicit unit tests. We're going to make sure we have coverage. If I get to a point I have to pull code down to check it, we'll do that. Okay, so this is the first step in setting up. So these will be the first two things we do. We'll probably do a basic cleanup of the project. I want to configure the folders. And here I'm talking about I'll bring the structure over later. And what we're really talking about is the structure for the Angular project. Okay. So along with this is probably one session, right? Because, not only are we going to have set up the Angular and a basic cleanup, but we're probably going to talk through Angular for those of you that haven't worked with Angular before, right? It'd be nice if you know what's going on, right? Angular does a few different things, and I want to make sure you guys are aware of those and are able to pull the repository down and run things and see it working, okay? So that's one card, and let's see. Trying to think of how did we do it with labels, because there really isn't a way. Oh, we do have a story points. Oh, it's a power up. Okay, we're going to try the power up. So generally you vote on this. Okay. To me, this is probably about an hour's work. I'm trying not to build these big, massive, I don't want 8-point cards. Okay. Everybody familiar with pointing? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. So we're going to have a talk about pointing. This is a good thing to talk about. Okay. Story points are more what we call velocity. Okay. And if I were doing this right, and what we'll do is in the future, as we add cards, is we'll do a planning, what's called planning poker, where I give you a link and we can all vote on what a card's weight is going to be. There's two things that you count for in the story points in your velocity. Okay, and that's How long it's going to take. This one I already think is going to take about an hour. Might take a little bit longer if we want to dive deeper into some discussion on Angular. But also how complex it is. Okay. Setting up Angular and doing a basic cleanup is really straightforward. I mean, you're spending more time watching it install stuff into node modules, right? You guys have seen that with React, I suspect, right? Talking through Angular. Okay, that's me explaining the basics of Angular. I'm not going to do a deep dive yet. Okay, we'll get there. Configuring the folder structure and putting folders in place. Okay, even if we don't put that content into those folders, we want to get the base structure and talk about it a little bit. And to set up a unit test, there is a little trick with 15 that I found this morning because it doesn't automatically out of the box set up a config file. So you have to run an Angular CLI command to make it work. But we'll talk about the Angular CLI too. That's a whole other piece. So in my mind, we're probably going to have to weight things a little differently, at least initially. Okay, this is probably about a 2-point, maybe a 3-point card. There's a little bit of complexity in there, not a lot. Okay, there is a lot to cover. It could theoretically take 2 sessions if a lot of questions come out about it. Okay, so unless anybody is totally against it, I'm going to put 2 points down for this one. If you are, let me know, and we'll come back in and fix it. Love that. Puts it on there. Okay. Not going to worry about labeling yet. GitHub. That's new. Add a branch, add a commit. Ooh. Have to come back in later to add a branch for that. We don't have a branch for it yet. Didn't know that was a thing. All right. So we'll change our name too. And, generally you do some kind of prefixing letters, usually related to your project, and then a number. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to just stick with what you guys have been seeing me do, how to take a test. And we're going to call this one on really complicated naming pattern, right? So when we work on this, we'll branch by feature / htttat -1 -- and then install Angular 15. That'll be our branch name, and we can move forward with that. Okay. We might start on this next session. I don't know, but that to me is a good start for that card. Okay. And typically what we do is we'll go back through and review cards before they move out of the backlog and that kind of stuff. This one's pretty straightforward, and our early ones are going to be really straightforward. Okay. So we need to install Angular. The next step, as we talked about, is we need to, and this will be 2. We want to set up unit test protection on pipeline. I'll keep the name relatively short, right? Let's go ahead and edit this one. Card. There we go. So we're setting up unit tests. It could be just one unit test, right? We need to verify that they pass. And here's the fun part. We get to work with GitHub Action YAML files. I have a pattern that works in another project, and I'll probably just pull that over, and we'll figure out from there what we want to do next with it. Okay. This is the first step. We got to get it. We have to get the GitHub Actions to run the unit tests. And assuming they pass, which when you run the unit test, it's either going to return a 0 or 1. For those that have written anything for command line code, that's a typical pattern. 0 means it passed, 1 means it failed. Okay, so if it fails, the external code will know that. And then we'll have a name on that job, I think is what it's called. We'll have a name on that job, and we can attach that name in the settings saying, hey, I want this to run anytime they push up a PR. So your PR can't be merged if you have failing unit tests. Kind of a cool feature to have in your branching, right? So I'm going to add in one more piece here, which is push like crazy until it's. This is an important step. And this is where I'm really going to need your help. Because remember, we have to have 2 reviews, right? I could force it, but I'd rather not if we can manage. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how the timing goes on that. Okay. So this is the first step in our setup. So we'll save that change and points. So my guess is that's probably more complex. That's going to probably, having done this before, probably 3 points. Okay. That push and checking and validating and getting it to work. Sometimes it goes real easy and you're done like the first try, and other times you sit there pushing 20, 30, 40 times before something happens. Okay. And if you guys have questions, please ask. Okay. I'm babbling like crazy here. ATT3. So our third card is going to fall right in that vein. We're setting up the unit tests that'll block the PR. Let's assume we'll write this into the card that we're going to do front end only. Okay. Now, because we've had some fairly decent conversations over whether to have a backend and databases and login and all of this authentication, authorization, we'll within our repo we'll put the front end in a front end folder. Okay. So we can have a backend folder if we need it. We can have, for the various parts of the project. But one of the things that we need to be able to do, and we make sure, let's do that now. Let's put that on the other card. And let's see. So we don't forget it in and always good to be explicit and not forget things. I do forget things. Okay, so on this one, HTTA3, we are going to build a pipeline, right? We're actually have it build. Okay, so we're going to go with the assumption. And yes, please document assumptions explicitly, because it's amazing how many people will miss that. So our initial assumption is that we're front end only. Based on okay. So we want to take this really simple project because we haven't built anything into the project yet, right? And we want to set up a build pipeline, which again is a GitHub Actions. And it's a YAML. Again, I have that one. And so what's going to happen here is when the code actually gets merged, when your PR gets merged in, this will trigger actually build the Angular project, and we're going to use an action tool to create a GH pages, GitHub pages branch. Now this one, compared to the setup unit tests, is pretty straightforward. There is one thing we need to take care of if we're going to use GH pages. And so because of GH pages, we need to ensure that we're using the hash tag navigation. So in the GitHub, in the React code that you guys have written, where you set up your routes and that kind of stuff, have you used hash routing? Has anybody used that? Okay. One of the problem with normal routing, both in Angular and React, is that it assumes the root, and GitHub pages, because of the way it does it with the project.github.io, the routing gets all messed up. Okay, what I've found over time is there's a couple of small tweaks we have to do. There's some things we'll have to do in the index HTML. We'll have to use the hashtag navigation, which the setup of the navigation looks exactly the same, except for when you run it, you get a /hashtag/ in your route. Okay, it changes how it builds that route. It's not a huge deal, but I'm going to say and other. Oops. Now that adds a lot of complexity into this one, okay? But what we want to do is actually push it. And so somewhere in here, we're going to have to change the GitHub settings. Oh. We use, and let's say in my mind, this is a 3 to a 5. I'm going to err on the 3 side. I could be wrong, okay? So each of these is probably a working session. Now we need to start building something, right? So far, we haven't talked about writing Angular code, just a quick overview early on. But what I really like to hammer out, and maybe there's one session in there for this, is what we want our JSON to look like, whether we end up with a database or we go straight front end only. We're going to need this array, this big structure of questions by grade level and this and that kind of stuff. And sometimes it works a little better taking a look at the data first. It's going to at least get us started, because we might have somebody else that wants to take on researching some of this and finding us other questions and patterns and that kind of stuff. So we would create a structure card. And I don't think we need a lot in this one, other than I'm going to put points on for probably 3 points, because there will be a lot of discussion on that one. Okay. So thoughts, what am I missing at this point? This has got at least 4 sessions hammered out. Thought through to some degree. We haven't even talked about creating components, right? Now, remember, creating components in Angular, it's still creating a component. Just like you do with React, you have that app level where you're like, here's that big wrapper, and then in the big wrapper, you have your header and your footer and all your other stuff. Angular's not much different structurally from that, okay? So we can define a header. We can define login if we want to, pulling storage, saving things. There are services and things like that we'll have to build. And that stuff we'll have to document. Am I losing anybody? Everybody following along? Okay, so let's see. Access to Trello Scrum board, submitted a request. All right. Pending requests. Let's go see if we're missing anybody. We'll come back in a second. I got the pending guests, and Mohammed, yours must have been old, because I don't even see you on here, Mohammed. And such. I don't see any pending requests. Let's see if you're showing up on the list here. So Mohammed Hassan and Sachi. Nope.
It looks like it's loading up now. No, it's not. It still says request sent.
Oh. Let's. Okay, I'm sending an invite link. Let's try that. This is the kind of stuff we're going to figure out. I'm okay with some of these sessions being, hey, I'm having trouble getting something to work. Okay. Hey.
I'm in. Thank you.
Apparently, Mohammed put you right in. Yeah. And there's Sachi. Hey. Well, that was easier, wasn't it? Gotta remember to use the link next time. All right. Yeah, I am going to have to put out a lot of fires. I think that's right. All right, so I'm going to copy that link one more time. I do, like I said, I have a hidden file that I'm not really going to show you guys yet, but this will be the Trello board invite. Yeah, that's the top secret one you're not supposed to see. Okay. So, all right. So let's talk through. Since we seem to be going well with these cards. We got a lot of work already set up. Let's talk structure a little bit. And so, thinking a basic banner. And, basic banner doesn't have to be any more than something like a rough logo. I don't care if it's centered at the top left side. We'll figure all that out later. We just want to get something started. Okay. Fixed on the top. Everything else can scroll below that and that stays in place. Maybe it doesn't stay in place. I don't know. We're just going to say on top. I'm not going to limit myself down on that one. We'll just have it set for the top, not pinned. Okay. Nothing fancy there. And that could be our place later on. If we want login, we can do it. We can put it into that. I'm not going to worry about a footer at this point, but the one I can see is grade level selection. And edit that one. And so what I foresee here is basically a set of bullets or a set of buttons. And so here's the first place where we might be thinking about, do we want to use a design system? Okay, and I have worked very successfully with Material UI. Now, at some point, we're going to have to fight with Material UI and get its color scheme set up for what we want. And we haven't even decided on a color scheme yet, right? But let's say it's a Material UI, okay? If you go to search for it, if you've worked with React and the React UI, Material UI for Angular is a little different. Always search for Angular material. You'll get to the right place, okay? But I'm thinking a set of buttons, and the set of buttons, and let's get off the list because what we want is a set of buttons that are. I know somebody had mentioned third grade, so I'm going to start there. I'm typing really slow tonight. Copy that. Fifth. Let's just go like the third grade to eighth grade. And then we'll do high school. And we'll do initially just do adult. But I can see adult having different types. Like a technical assessment versus, who knows, personality assessment. Those would be radically different tests, I would think, right? And in some way, we'll need some way of storing that state. We'll get to that as we go. Okay, so that gives us our basic selection. Story points on this one. Oh, we didn't do the banner one. This one's going to be really easy. That's a 1, maybe a 2 point. Okay, so I'm going to estimate high on this one. And the estimation is really kind of cool because what it ends up being is sometimes you're going to be high and sometimes you're going to be low, and more often than not, you're pretty much averaged out, right? Story points. So basic banner 1, nothing going to be fancy in there. Okay. And these can be cards you can pick up as we move forward. Okay. It doesn't have to be me doing it. Doesn't have to be me in a session doing it. All right. So I'm going to add another one in, and we're going to change its priority. And since I'm deciding on material, if you disagree, let me know. Okay. We need to add this in. So just installing it. Not going to be a tough one. Well, yeah, I would do the install as a single because that'll be one story point. But we need to change the order of where that happens. And there'll be a card following it that should come somewhere in that same time frame. But what I'm thinking is this probably could be as early as up here. But I'm thinking after we get the pipelining stuff out of the way. In addition to that, it would have something like material color scheme. That one will be a fight. In fact, I'm going to see what the current material color scheming is like. Typically, when I do this for a client, this is configuring the full color scheme. Okay. Disabled buttons, everything. Okay, it's set up in that color scheme. I've had this take me upwards of a week to get configured in the past. There are tools that sometimes it'll help you generate it. I don't know what the existing current material looks like. So there might be a little research that has to happen here. So story point wise, I'm going to say this one's probably going to be in the 3 to 5 range. So I'm going to error high on this one. And if somebody really wanted to tackle that, man, you'd be my savior on that one. But let's put that, I'm going to leave that right where it is. I don't think it has to be up here necessarily. It can be picked up at pretty much any point when myself or someone else wants to take on a good fight. Okay. With a grade level selection, then based on our data, we should be able to select out of a series of tests, right? Or maybe it's select a test and it randomizes it for you, right? So we have to actually list those tests. Work tonight. So display, left, grade, test. And thinking that maybe that's a little early. I'm going to cut that for a second. We want to display select the level of assistance, right? The level of assistance is simply crawl, walk, run. Right? Do they need no help, a lot of help, no help? Right? So at some point we'll have to store that. And story point, that should be a pretty straightforward one. Though we'll have to put some graphics on that. And then it should be the same list of tests, irregardless of which assistance level they chose, right? So in this one, we need to decide whether is it going to be, so decision here, right? Random or selected. A list. Selection should take user to a test page. Which then also means, guess what, we need to set up a test page. And routing. First route, right? Doesn't have to do much, just has to take them there. Okay. And maybe in our data, it's just we display the title for one of the tests or something like that. I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get there. We are creating a page. We'll make that decision when we get there. I'm not too stressed on that one at the moment. And the selection should take on a page of the basic navigation. Shouldn't take too much to do. So I'm going to set that in 3. Give us a little bit of wiggle room. Okay. All right. We have a massive backlog, right? Here's the thing. Okay, this is what I want you to think about. I don't know where people's experience level is. My plan is I'm going to work through a card a couple times a week as we get together for these meetings. Maybe 2, depending on how fast they go. Okay. I know I had a couple folks that have said they had some Angular experience. Material theme builder. Yeah, I've got to grab that. Cool. Is that a blog about Material Theme Builder, or is that the actual Material Theme Builder? Oh, I didn't copy the right thing. What happened there? Copy link address. I don't want to look at the releases. I want to look at, there you go. Jeez. I can mess up copy paste. What good gets me is it has blog right in the middle. So this is talking about the Material Theme Builder. Good. But you install it as a Figma plugin on the web. There we go. Let's go there. Why not? We got 10 minutes left, right? You've been watching me write cards. That's boring stuff. I do need to write more cards. While I'm in those 10 minutes, we're going to take a look at that in a second. While we're in that last 10 minutes, number 1 is everybody filled out the survey, right? Saying you're here. Number 2, I'm going to switch these meetings over probably starting next week to Zoom. Just for the simple fact that I have a default Zoom I can use. And it'll be the same meeting across the board. So if we have 2 of these meetings back to back, we don't have to leave the meeting and come back again. Which, guess what we have to do in about 10 minutes. Okay. Relink the survey. Yes, I can relink the survey. Nope. Get that out of the way. There we go. So yeah, in about 8 minutes, we're going to hop off and hop back on. So for now, we're going to play with this a little bit, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do next. Okay. And I have to remember to turn this off. I have this dark mode thing that is really going to throw off, I would guess, the Material Theme Builder, right? So we could go dynamic. Let's see what we have here. Extended colors, we can add colors. Generate themes based on presets. Ooh, that's ugly. So you can throw a picture in and it'll pick the colors from the picture. That's kind of a cool idea. I hadn't really. All right. That's kind of cool. And you can see what it looks like on a phone. We can change things. You can see what it looks like in Windows. Not much different. Don't change much. Okay. Well, we can go custom. Let's see what that looks like. Or not. There we go. There we go. So core colors, primary, secondary, tertiary, and neutral. That's what I'm used to seeing. Okay. And does it let us select these? Oh, look, it does. All right. So if we wanted something like a pale green, put it into the green range. Oh, this is hue. Oh. All right. Don't usually pick my colors hue, chroma, tone. So I'm going to have to play with that to figure it out. But, I mean, this is a great tool. I got some thoughts on color scheme. I mean, this is education related. My brain keeps going to those test scorecard things we used to pencil in, and that really weird light green color that those had. I don't know if we can. Yeah, there you go. Scantron sheets. Yes. So that's not a bad color for an education page, right? Although we have to pick things on the wheel and that kind of stuff, and I have other tools too that we can use in there as well. I don't know where my color one went to. Yes, green is good for kids. I'll have to find my color wheel thing. There's one that is out there that's really, really good for picking the associated colors and your base color and that kind of thing. And then we can apply that in here. And then see what this is going to look like. I think that's a great idea. Then you export it and you're pretty much done. Although I don't know why these are different. Ooh, sorry. But it is a material theme builder, so I'm assuming in there somewhere we can use that in material. Cool. All right, so we got 5 minutes left. My wife and daughter just came in the door, and I can smell the food from here. And I got 2 more hours of chats. Are you guys okay with those of you that aren't returning? I'll see you whenever the next session is. Those of you that are returning for the 6 o'clock Eastern, meeting me back here in 5 minutes. Is that okay? Cindy, are you raising your hand because you agree or because you have a question?
Raising hand because I was clicking the wrong button. But yeah, I'm good.
All right. All right. So I'm going to stop the record. Mohammed, did you have a question or are you agreeing?
Just a quick question. The 6 o'clock session going to be a continuation of what we're doing today, or is it going to be the same session repeated for another group?
It's continue. We're going to move on from where we're at now.
Okay. That's good.
So from this point, I'm not going to repeat any sessions. These will be posted as I did with the previous sessions. They'll be posted on YouTube. So if you miss one, go to YouTube and watch it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. See you in 4 minutes. I'm going to hop right into that one and I'll mute it and we'll start recording when I come back. All right.